Okay, got it. Good evening to everybody and welcome. Don't think we'll be hearing any fireworks this evening. I do have a question before we start. Uh, Last week we did 4 tasks. We talked about safety procedures, locating a site, regaining lost communications, and we talked a little bit about frequencies and channels, repeaters, simplex, duplex, a lot of terms. First, are there any pressing questions from last week? I worked with a couple of you during the week who missed last week. Question number 2, has everyone had a chance to look at their squitters to see what has been signed off? And is it what you were expecting to be signed off from last week? I'm getting a lot of yeses. I can't see everybody on here, but that's fine. Hopefully, we won't have a lot of disruptions from the internet this evening. So, our plan for this evening is the first couple lessons will probably be a repeat, a little more in depth of what was covered in ICUT. We're going to cover L0001, which is communications procedures for emergency services. I saw many of you are already signed off on that, because that's a common task both for ground team and also for mission staff assistant. And then L0002, basic radio operating procedures, pretty much the same thing. And then we're going to go into message handling, L0004. And we'll get into a little bit of homework as the evening progresses. So let's see if I can share this evening, since I learned how to do that last week. If you're waiting to submit tasks, please try to do that as soon as you can. And use either my CAP ID or Colonel Bartell's CAP ID. I had about 30, I think, last week that I approved. I can get my files to come up. Come on, window. There it is. I had to think about it. Okay, our first task this evening we're going to talk about is L0001. L0001. Basic communications procedures for ES. And this is going to be a follow-on for what we covered last week, and again also on ICON. Our first subject is going to be call signs. There's two types of call signs: tactical call signs and functional call signs. So each region, wing, and national headquarters is assigned a unique set of call signs coordinated through the Air Force. In Illinois, each radio is assigned its own call sign. Some wings have call signs issued to operators. Can anyone tell me what the collective call sign is for Illinois?
Red Fox.
Thank you. You have Red Fox. If you hear a station with a Red Fox call sign, you know they're from Illinois wing. Can anyone tell me what the collective call sign is for the Great Lakes region? Blue Lakes. If you hear a station with a call sign Blue Lakes, that station is assigned a call sign through the region. Only one call sign is reserved. Well, Red Fox 1, if you ever hear Red Fox 1, that is the commander of the Illinois wing. Okay, Red Fox 2 is the vice commander. Red Fox 3 is chief of staff. Red Fox 4 is the director of communications. And some other call signs are also assigned. I think the wing chaplain has a call sign. I believe it's Red Fox 5. Don't quote me on that.
Yes, Red Fox 5.
So what you'll hear with call signs, a two-digit call sign like mine, Red Fox 9 or 8, is assigned to a HF radio. Any HF station has a two-digit call sign. Three-digit call sign. If you hear a call sign like Red Fox 270, Red Fox 310, that's assigned to a VHF radio. VHF call sign has 3 digits after Red Fox. I believe our ISR radios, is everyone familiar with the ISR radios? They're those small little handheld radios that look like family radio service radios. Each one is assigned a call sign. And I believe they're up in the Red Fox 500 and 600 categories. Call signs are required at the beginning of all transmissions, and call signs are pronounced one digit at a time. Example, Red Fox 7 9er. And we're going to get into a little bit of pronunciation there. Notice I didn't say 7-9, I said 7-9er. The correct way to pronounce a 9 over the radio is 9er. Usually each wing has a licensing officer who assigns the call signs. If you are assigned a radio, or if you have a personally owned radio that meets compliance requirements, you will be assigned a call sign specifically to you that you can use. And you might use that same call sign over several different radios. For anyone who's a comm officer or logistics, if you look in ORMS and you look at each radio that the squadron's assigned in ORMS, usually the call sign assigned to that radio is listed along with the listing in ORMS. Any questions on tactical call signs? They're assigned by an Air Force designator that's assigned to each region and wing.
I'm sorry, sir. Real quick, you said looking in ORMS for the stations, for the call sign that would be assigned to a squadron?
To a radio. Do you have ORMS authorization?
No, sir, but I was recently made the comm officer, so I have no idea what I have to do at this point. That's part of the reason why I am in this class, is to learn what I need to be able to do.
Okay, we may talk offline. as comm officer, you should have access to ORMS, and that would give you access to the listing of all the radios in your squadron. So,
Is that an
probably want to talk offline.
Okay, we'll talk. Is that an e-services, sir?
That is correct. E-services, logistics, ORMS.
Yeah, let me make mention that that may only be true for Illinois. I know Illinois puts the call signs down in the comments section. I can't vouch for other states at this point.
Yeah, whoever that was, I couldn't see your name. Leave your question in the chat.
Yeah, that was Colonel Bartell.
Okay.
Or is he he's talking about, maybe he's talking about me, sir. Captain Joseph DeWalt. I'm with Champaign Composite Squadron.
Okay. Yeah, we probably want to talk offline. That's kind of part of the training you should receive as a comm officer. You probably should have a mentor to kind of guide you along, but we can work that out. I can email you after the class is over, or at some point tomorrow. Okay, next we're going to move on into functional call signs. During certain missions or activities, you can be assigned to use a functional call sign. They can be assigned by the incident commander, the comm unit leader, whoever's leading the activity. One-time use just for that day or for that mission or for that activity. Like if you're at a flight line, if you're at an airport open house and you hand your members a bunch of ISR radios, you can assign them different functional designators like Ground Team 1, Safety 1, Flight Line 1. So those are functional designators. If there's more than one unit, you may add a numeric to it, as I mentioned earlier, such as Ground Team 1, Flight Line 1, Flight Line 2. Mission Base, a mission base functional designator can include the name of that mission base. If there's a practice mission running out of Alton, we would use Alton Mission Base to identify where that mission base is located. Again, it was mentioned in ICUT, you cannot use Ground Team Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. It has to be a number. Aircraft. You'll have the opportunity as a radio operator to communicate with one of our aircraft. The call sign for all Civil Air Patrol aircraft is CAP. Now be careful, a long time ago, well, I don't know, just a few years ago, was CAP Flight, and a lot of people are used to using that still. Now it is just CAP, followed by 3 or 4 digits. In Illinois, aircraft call signs begin with CAP 11, and then the last 2 digits of the tail number. For example, November 9947 Lima would be CAP 1147. Notice the pronunciation. It's not CAP 1147, it's CAP 1147. And the only functional designator an aircraft may use is the term hybrid. That would be for an aircraft that is either carrying an airborne repeater or a radio operator on board to provide a relay function. We talked about that a little bit last week, launching a plane up about 5,000 feet to give us about an 80 or 90 mile range. Any questions on call signs? And I can't see that whole chat. My screen's kind of blocking it. What was the question? The question dealt something with if there's multiple hybrids. we'll come back to it. If there's anything that would cause confusion by using functional designators, it's best to remain with tactical designators. We don't want to cause any confusion. Any designator you use should be straightforward. That's why we use them. A flight line should designate someone on the flight line. Usually, I haven't been on any type of mission where there's been more than one hybrid within range of me.
Right. Major, this is Colonel Bartell. If I can talk to that for a moment. Yes, because of the nature of these things, they need to be far away from each other. And the fact that they're using just a single frequency or single repeater pair. So they're quite far away. But we can name them geographically, North Hybrid, South Hybrid, pretty much by where they're at. So we can give different names to different repeaters that are up in the air. We have to be careful because I know Wisconsin runs hybrid repeaters also, and we can hear them quite well. But yeah, we'd give them a geographic name if there's more than one of them out.
Roger, thank you. Let's move on. How do we contact another station? Okay, call signs are required at the beginning and end of each conversation, plus once every 10 minutes during the conversation. And once you have established contact with another station, you don't have to use call signs again unless 10 minutes passes or someone says out. Of course, out signifies the end of that conversation. And if you have more to say, then you need to recall that station using proper procedure. First thing, and this is most important for anything, know what you're going to say before you key the microphone. I don't know how many times I saw someone key a microphone and then start muttering, well, what am I supposed to say? You're announcing that over the air, you're taking up channel space. Know what you want to say before you key the microphone. It's always best to have a pad of paper and a pen or a pencil in front of you so you can write down what's going on real time. To give you a chance to write down what a question may be, what someone may be asking you, or who you want to call. But know what you want to say. Listen to the channel first. Make sure there's not a conversation in progress. If there is a conversation in progress and you should have an emergency and need to make that known, wait until one station says over and then quickly just announce your call sign. One of the stations will hear that and they will answer you, hopefully. And then you can tell them what the nature of your emergency is. If it's not an emergency and it can wait till their conversation is finished, then simply wait until they're done. And push the talk button. Operate the push to talk button, then wait for a count of 2. Sometimes it takes these radios a few seconds to key up. And if you don't do that, it'll cut off the first second or 2 of your conversation. I'm going to make a sample call. We're going to establish a communications over here. We're going to assume we have a radio in front of us. I'm going to grab a microphone. There's no radio attached to it. Red Fox 79er, this is Red Fox 9 or 8, over.
Red Fox 9 or 8, this is Red Fox 79er, over.
Radio check, over.
Roger, over.
Radio check. You're good readable, over.
Roger, you are loud and clear as well, over.
Red Fox 9 or 8, out. So, I kind of changed the verbiage on there a little bit. I called Red Fox 79er. Okay, once we established contact, call signs were no longer necessary. And then As step 7 says, the person who originated the call ends the call. So I ended the call by saying Red Fox 9 or 8 out. If Red Fox 79er wanted to add anything to that conversation, he would have to call me again. We'd have to reestablish communications, and then we could continue. So that is the basic procedure for establishing communications with another station. We used the pro words over, and I think last week I mentioned to take a look, kind of review CAPR 100-3, radio telephone procedures. That's going to answer a lot of questions you may have. And the prime part you want to look at is pro words. A pro word is a word that can take the place of almost up to a sentence during a conversation and shorten communications time. Short and concise. Over means I'm done talking, it's your turn. And I'm expecting an answer. Out means the conversation's complete. This is, notice at the beginning, I said Red Fox 79er. This is Red Fox 9 or 8. This is announces to the called station who's calling them. If you agree with something the other station said, affirmative means the same as yes. Negative means no. Of course, you could say yes and no. Probably on VHF, that'd be no problem. However, sometimes on HF, when there's a lot of static, it's noisy, it's kind of hard to tell what some of the words like yes and no are. You might have to repeat them. So affirmative and negative might be more clearly understood. Roger means your message is received and understood. Wilco. Wilco means I have received, understood, and will comply. Never use Roger and Wilco together. So if someone says something to you and requests you to do something or requests you to reply with some information and you say Roger, that only means that you received their request and you understand it. If you reply with Wilco, that means you have received, understood it, and will comply. If you don't understand something, or you had difficulty hearing something a station had said to you, the pro word say again. And we'll use that in a practice message later on in the course. Say again means you need the last information repeated. If you repeat something, the pro word I say again is used when you're repeating information that's already been sent. The pro word I spell means you are spelling something phonetically. I'll give an example of that. If I'm sending a message or communications and I say, please switch to Charlie Charlie 1. I say again, please switch to Charlie Charlie 1. Over. The pro word I say again means I'm going to repeat something I already said. The pro word I spell means you're going to spell something phonetically. The office symbol DOKO, the Communications Directorate at NHQ. If I was sending that in a message or even mentioning it, someone might not understand what that is. I would use the pro word I spell. I would say I spell initials Delta Oscar Kilo Oscar. If there's a word that's difficult to understand, maybe and, I would say I spell Alpha November Delta and. The pro word wait. if you use the pro word wait, it means you need to look something up. That does not end the conversation. That just tells the other station to wait. You'll be right back with them. It does not close your conversation out. If it's going to take a while to look something up, use the pro word wait out. That ends the conversation. And then when you have the information that's needed, then you reestablish contact. Any questions up to this point?
I have one on the sample the call that you made to Colonel Bartell. At the end, you said out, and he did not respond with his call sign and out, which is the way I learned it back when I was a young senior, which was a long time ago. Has the procedure changed over the years?
No, only once one station says out, that's it. The other station does not respond.
Thank you.
I think in that slide, I have to go back and look at it again. It mentioned that the station who established contact, the initial calling station should end the conversation. However, really any station can. But once one of the stations says out, that conversation's over.
Colonel Topke, look at it like this. It's like hanging up a phone. If you hang up the phone, is the other person going to try talking back to you?
Except you're not hanging up a phone, and the way it was explained to me, the calling station may be done and not expect a reply from you, but you may have something to say to them. So by you saying your station out, then you clear the frequency completely. But that's how it was explained to me, but like that was in the 70s when I first learned this stuff.
Right. Now, currently only the originating station says out. That clears the frequency. And as Major Felber mentioned earlier, if I have something else I want to tell you at that point, I would have to recall and reestablish that conversation again.
Oh.
But as soon as an out is on, that frequency is then clear for somebody else to try and use.
Things change over time. Thanks for the clarification.
Certainly.
One other thing, sometimes just out of habit, many of us are also radio hams, and you hear a lot of procedures on ham radio. They try to follow some of this, but I hear it all the time where even if they use the pro word out, both stations will use it. It just gets to be a habit, but our CAP procedures come from ACP 125, and it tries to establish a common procedure among all of the military services. So that's where it comes from. You probably will remember this from ICUT prohibited practices. Do not identify operators by name. No personal conversations, no nicknames, no vanity calls in place of your functional designator or tactical designator. Excessive testing or tuning. Well, we don't have to tune up our radios fairly much anymore. Sometimes on HF, you might have to adjust an antenna tuner, keep it short. And before a net starts, don't wait till the net starts and then start keying the microphone. Our MICOMs don't have the tune function that most of the ham radios do. So it's kind of difficult to tune an antenna tuner with them. You might hear someone whistling before a net starts. That's probably what they're trying to do. But excessive testing or tuning is prohibited. No profane, no indecent or obscene language. Use of excessive transmitter power. We usually don't have a choice in that anymore. The MICOMs run 100 watts. Our VHF radios will only run 50 or 25 watts. Use the minimum power necessary for reliable communications. Interrupting a scheduled net. Okay, during a scheduled net, the net control station is in charge of that frequency. Any transmission should be directed at the net control station. Never call another station on the net. Don't interrupt it without calling the net control station first to get permission to transmit. Once you've checked into a net, do not leave without permission of net control. They're going to assume you're on the net until you tell them you need to leave or until they close the net. Use of codes, 10 codes, the ham radio Q codes, don't use them. Use plain language with pro words. Questions at this point? Just some local practices. This mainly applies to Illinois Wing. Procedures for licensing a radio, corporate or privately owned. Illinois Wing website, communications tab has those procedures. Basically, you turn in the information, and if the radio meets qualifications, if it's a corporate radio, it will be licensed. If it's a privately owned radio and it's one of them that meets the qualifications, then it can be licensed too. There are many present members who have radios that were licensed before 2006 that are still usable. They still meet the narrow band qualifications, with the caveat that once they quit, you can't relicense that same type of radio. If you ever go out looking for a radio to buy, be careful. Always ask someone who's familiar with comm first. Who can program radios? I've sent all my radios up to Wing. Colonel Becker has a lot of the programming software. There's probably several others. I still have a Tate 2020 that I bought from Vanguard back when they sold them. It's still usable, and he programmed it. So, and the last thing on there, national versus local mission forms. For mission forms, whatever the IC wants used during that mission. Could be the CAP forms, could be an ICS form. I know for communications, pretty much anymore, if we have internet access, we have just been downloading our comm logs directly into Wimmers. Of course, like I said at the beginning, always have a pad of paper handy and a pencil so you can take notes that you can transfer later to an actual log. A lot of this information is in CAP Regulation 100-1, which is communications management. It's mainly meant for the communications manager, but you should still be familiar with it. Are there any questions at this point? I see some no's. Okay, if I ask someone to set up a communications between two stations, who would like to volunteer? Do I have a volunteer?
I would.
Okay, let's try it. For this, we're going to use functional call sign. I'm going to be instructor 1, and you can be student 1. Okay?
Okay.
Those aren't real functional call signs we would use. They're fine for this purpose. So, well, let's just see where this goes. Student 1, this is instructor 1. Over.
Instructor 1, here is student 1. Over.
Okay, you replied here is student 1.
Okay.
Correct response would be this is.
This is student 1. Over.
Student 1, what is the current time? Over.
Current time is, yeah, you're going to challenge me on my 24-hour time thing. It's 7. Well, you stumped me there. I'm sorry.
It could be local time.
Well, it's 7, and I don't remember the abbreviation for the colon. It's 42,
Don't need it. Just say 7:42.
7:42 p.m. Over.
Say again, over.
7:42 p.m. Over.
Roger, out. Okay, notice that was short and to the point. My only comment was pro word, this is, when you answered me. And, time, if it was an actual mission, you'd probably already be prepared with a clock in front of you and the time, so you could look at the clock. And then I used the pro word say again. So that's where pro words come in. If I didn't understand it, I'd use that say again pro word. Okay. Anyone else want to try?
Here's a.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, just everybody needs to make sure they become familiar with the 24-hour clock so they can refer to hours in 24 hours format and be familiar with Zulu time. Otherwise, Greenwich Mean Time, Universal Time Coordinated, whatever they're going to call it. But you need to be familiar with those 3 methods of looking at the time. 2 methods, really. That's it.
It's hard to remember some of that stuff. Usually the best way is, like, if you're going out to some function, most of us use it so much that we've almost memorized it. But you might make a note, like I said, have a piece of paper and a pencil in front of you. Make a note of what the time is, both in local time, 24-hour time, and Zulu time. That way you have a quick reference right in front of you that you can refer to almost immediately, and it would save time doing that conversion. Most of the time.
Can I try it, sir?
Sure. Who is that?
Yes, this is, I'm actually using my mom's Gmail. It shows up as Teresa, but this is actually Ezra.
Okay. So I'm going to be instructor 1. You're going to be student 1. Are you ready?
Got it.
Okay. Student 1, this is instructor 1. Over.
Instructor 1, this is student 1. Over.
What is the current time? Over.
The current time is 19:45. Over.
Understand? 1945. Is that correct? Over.
Correct.
Don't forget the
Over.
over. Will you be able to report to your squadron at 2000? Over.
We'll be able to report to my squadron at 200. Over.
Roger, out. Okay, I threw a little curve in by asking you that other question. I was expecting you to say something like negative or something like that, or no. But anyway, that was good.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone
Thank
had
you.
okay, someone put a question in the chat. Any questions?
Some change.
I'm going to move on to L0002.
Okay, well, you're bringing that up. The question is the 24-hour time or Zulu time preferred. 24-hour time, most of the time when we're talking on the radio, the incident commander can make the choice as to whether he wants to use local time or Zulu time. Used to be all logging had to be done in Zulu time, but that's not any longer the case. It can be done in local time. And if you do use local time, it's 24-hour format.
Okay, I wanted to use your L002 worksheet. I see mine.
Okay, do you want to use the PowerPoint that I put out there for it?
Yes, I thought I had it downloaded. I don't see it right now. I only see the one that I downloaded. You want to put
Okay.
yours up?
Yep, give me a second.
Okay. My files kind of got screwed up today.
Oops.
We're having a virtual SUI. So I had to do a whole bunch of finding files. You might say I had to find a bunch of virtual files to turn in. So I've been, it kind of screwed up my whole Explorer thing.
Okay.
Okay, a lot of this
There's
is
the,
going to be a repeat of iCut and actually L0001. Like I said, 0001 is for all communications, ground team, MSA, just a brief review. So now we're going to go into a little more depth into radio operating procedures. So we covered the proper method to contact another station. And just as a quick review again, use call signs, pause briefly before speaking, the called station, the pro word "this is," and the calling station. An example we used, I said Red Fox 79er. This is Red Fox 9 or 8, and the pro word "over." And then I wait until it's acknowledged. Now, on VHF, where we're line of sight, pretty much if he's on, he's going to hear me. Maybe on HF, if I call him, he may not hear me the first time. If he doesn't respond after a few seconds, then I would call him again. But otherwise, wait until the other station acknowledges your call. And then when you answer, actually, all you have to say is, "This is Red Fox 79er, over." You really don't have to use the station who's calling you. You don't have to use their call sign. You can, though. It just saves time not to. Okay.
Yeah, the only time it would really be necessary is if you've got multiple stations calling you, then you can pick one of them and answer. That happens frequently at a mission base.
Okay. The International Phonetic Alphabet, standard in military and aviation. After you use it a while, you will memorize it. Try to use it often. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, India, Juliet, Kilo, Lima, Mike, November, Oscar, Papa, Quebec, Romeo, Sierra, Tango, Uniform, Victor, Whiskey, X-Ray, Yankee, and Zulu. The International Phonetic Alphabet CAPR 100-3, paragraph 2.3.2. So if you're at a function, there's a radio in front of you, it would be good to have a copy of this chart in front of you. You're going to find there's several things in the regulations. There's several helpful hints. In addition to that pad of paper, you have a copy of the phonetic alphabet in front of you. You have a copy of the time zones in front of you, so that you can have a copy of pro words readily available. So if you have to refer to them, you don't sit there wondering what they are. Okay.
And if I can say something about that, basically, when I was first learning this stuff as a cadet, I was told how to learn the phonetic alphabet. Driving down the road, look at license plates and just start sounding letters out. That's the trick that they taught me how to understand it and how to memorize it, and that worked for me. So it's something to think about, or however you choose to do it. But that would seem like the best way, because there's all sorts of, you probably see all those letters are there at some point on a license plate, and the numbers too. So kind of helps you figure them out and you say them out loud. So it's a little trick like that.
Yeah, you can use highway signs, Sierra Tango Oscar Papa, for that red octagonal sign that you see everywhere. But you do need to be able to use these quickly, because I spell, and you're going to be spelling it phonetically. Anytime you're going to be using individual letters, you'll have to use them phonetically. So this is something you really need to commit to memory and become very comfortable using. When I joined as a cadet back in '67, they handed me a little blue card that had the phonetic alphabet on it. It says, here, memorize this, because you will be using it. So that would be my recommendation to everybody. Memorize this, because you're going to use it a lot.
So let's just leave this slide up for a few minutes. The next slide was a practice slide. So I see someone's already put something on there. Why don't you take a few moments? Does anyone want to try to use the phonetic alphabet on your first name?
In the chat or over voice?
Right here, over voice.
Voice.
Yeah, I'll do mine. I do it regularly, so I can do mine easily.
Okay.
So it's, hold on, let me make sure I spell it out first, because I'll go brain dead halfway through. So it's Alpha, Lima, Echo, X-ray, November, Delta, Romeo, Echo.
Anyone else?
I can try.
Yes, sir.
I'll let the cadet go first.
Okay. Echo, Zulu, Romeo, Alpha.
Echo, Zulu, Romeo, Alpha. Very good. Okay.
Whiskey, India, Lima, Lima, India, Alpha, Mike.
Very good. I think, as Colonel Bartels mentioned, try to find some opportunities to practice this. Road signs, license plates work real good, as they're a combination of numbers and letters.
Can I try, please?
Go ahead.
Foxtrot, Echo, Romeo, November, Alpha, November, Delta, Oscar.
Very good.
I'd like to have a go at it, sir.
Have at it.
Alpha, Lima, Echo, X-ray, India, Sierra.
Good. So now you have some ideas for practicing. Just keep at it, and that way you'll be ready to use it when the time occurs.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead and advance the slide.
You want to go to the practice slide or go on beyond?
Let's go, yeah, I'll go to the next one beyond that. Numerals, how do you pronounce numerals? Well, you're driving down the street and you see the license plate in front of you. It has a combination of letters and numbers. So numerals, 0, 1, 2, 3. Notice 3 is pronounced tree. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9er. Notice the 9 is always 9er. You might ask why. You know, on VHF, static, free, clear communications, it probably doesn't make much of a difference. But on HF, when it's real noisy, there's a lot of static and signals are weak. Using this numeral procedure can make a difference. 9er, you know, it's 9. Tree for 3. Fife for 5. This is another one. Looking at the license plates, use that to practice. This is another little cheat sheet you'll want to have in front of you. You might start making those cheat sheets up now so you'll have them available. Don't depend on someone else bringing them to a mission. Or if you should get to the point where you're issued your own radio and you start getting involved in some of the wing or local traffic nets. After a while, it'll become secondhand, but for now, you're going to need the aids in order to refer to them.
Okay, and everybody please be aware that there is no number O. O is a letter, not a number. 0 is a number. So don't use call sign Red Fox 103. That doesn't cut it. It's Red Fox 103. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good on numerals?
I think so. Okay, a quick review of pro words. Over means I'm done, it's your turn. Out means the conversation is ended. Roger means I received your message and understood. Wilco means received, understood, and will comply. And we'll talk more about pro words when we get to L0004.
Yep. Yeah, 0004 is message writing or understanding formal messages, and there are going to be a bunch more pro words we're going to be using there. So.
Okay. International urgency signals. This was covered in ICUT. We'll go over it real fast. The international distress signal, stations threatened by grave imminent danger to life. When using, repeat 3 times, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. When hearing, answer only if you're in a position to help. Otherwise, say nothing. Monitor till the situation's resolved. All other traffic ceases. Let the Mayday situation be handled. We're all familiar with Mayday probably on the aircraft frequency 121.5. When would you use it on a CAP frequency? This becomes important if you're in a CAT van and you're involved in an accident. There's a lot of other people around you probably. Would you get on your radio and say Mayday? Probably not. There's probably going to be someone near there already to render assistance, and cell phone to contact the police, to contact medical services. 911. 911 is your Mayday. So your chances of using it would be rare, unless you're in a rare situation. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, you have no cell phone coverage, you're in an accident, someone's hurt, then it would be appropriate to use Mayday, and hopefully someone would hear you. but quite possibly on the CAP frequencies, unless you're using a repeater covering a wide range. If you're on a simplex frequency and out far away from a mission base or anything, more than likely no one's going to hear you uttering Mayday. Any type of emergency procedures, of course, should be covered in the initial mission briefing and follow those procedures. Questions? Okay. Pan. Your international urgency signal indicates the calling station has a very urgent message concerning the safety of a ship, aircraft, vehicle, or the safety of persons. Again, repeat it 3 times. Pan. When hearing, answer only if you're in a position to help. Otherwise, continue to monitor until the situation is resolved. All other traffic ceases. It's considered immediate in precedence. So pan. Urgent message concerning the safety of a ship, aircraft, or other vehicle, and the safety of a person or persons. Okay? Securite. The international safety signal indicates a station is going to transmit a message concerning the safety of navigation or send important meteorological warnings that will or can affect a ship, aircraft, or persons. Has anyone ever heard this safety signal, Securite?
Yes, the Coast Guard uses that when they put out bulletins. I'm on the Mississippi River, so the Coast Guard uses that when they precede that with a bulletin for the towboats.
Yep. Yeah, if you're a boater, you'll probably hear that a couple times a day. Like you said, the Coast Guard uses it quite frequently along the Mississippi. If you're down around the Paducah area, if you're along the inland waterways, a couple of times a day usually. They'll first come up on their channel 16, and the Coast Guard channels are liaison channels on our radio. And they'll announce they're going to announce a bulletin, usually on 21 Alpha, and they'll precede it with Securite, and they'll then say usually a barge sunken or some obstruction to navigation in the river. So that one is in use quite a bit. You just don't hear it unless you got a boat out on the river. Questions? Okay.
Sir, yes, sir. I did one quick question. I'm confused on the pan because it seems to me that if it's only pan, would not it also be said just like Mayday, where it just says it once, where you say Mayday, you don't say Mayday, and you say Mayday. You've got pan, so it would seem to indicate you would say that 6 times.
No, just pan, 3 times. Mayday, 3 times.
You understand that my reason for confusion, though, correct?
Right. Pan, consider that one word.
Well, then I'm back to the thing that it would seem to me if pan is one word, you would say pan, and you're saying pan. So which is it?
Maybe I said it wrong. Pan. Pan. Okay?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly.
Okay. I've never heard it in use. Okay. One of the tasks we have to complete is keep track of a communications status board. An example of one is in this slide. Used to track all sorties that have left the mission base. It tracks the last time you communicated with them and their position, be it in a grid, the search area, etc. Usually the mission radio operator or mission staff assistant will update this board. And this says communication status board. Basically, it keeps track of everything going on for that mission. The aircraft, their call sign would be on it. A ground team, their call sign would be on it. When the last report, when the last position. Part of your mission briefing would be communications checks at certain intervals, be they every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, or whatever is deemed during the mission briefing. But one of your requirements is to maintain the information on a status board such as this.
Yeah. I apologize for the condition of that board. I've been using it since 2005, so it needs an update. But we used to write lat longs down in the position. We do not do that anymore, because when the Air Force does evaluations, they'll go out and they'll look at the operations status board, then they'll come back and look at our status board and see if the lat longs match. If they don't, you get dinged. So we no longer put the lat longs down on this board. The official lat long position of a unit is on the operations board. We'll just put down a general term as to they're en route to grid, they're in grid, returning to base, something generic. So there can't be any confusion there. Okay, so that's for tracking assets.
Another example of a communications board, list all communications information pertinent to the mission, the mission-based name, who the communications unit leader is, which channels are in use, and other information such as the FBO, any emergency numbers, or other agency contacts. Looks like this one is made out for a mission that was at Lake in the Hills Airport.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Okay, we're going to do a little more familiarization with radio equipment. This looks like it's the back of a VHF radio. Johnson 5300. Heavy red wire goes to 12 volts, or the plus terminal of the battery. The blue goes to ground. It's not black, it's a blue wire on the Johnson radios. You have your antenna connector and your accessory connector. And if I remember, that accessory connector has a little light red wire that also has to go to plus 12 volts DC to activate the radio. It's intended to go to the ignition switch so that when you turn the vehicle off, the radio goes off. They're not all wired that way. I know in our van, if you turn the ignition off, the radio still stays on. So you have to be careful that you don't run the battery down. Of course, in front, the microphone. Okay. On the front of the radio, if you remember, power on, there's an on-off push button volume switch. Set the desired channel, the zone and channel, with the switch to the right of that says select switch. There's a little bar that'll be above the channel number or the zone number. It's above the channel number. When you rotate the knob, it changes the channel. If it's above the zone, when you press, when you turn the knob, it will change the zone you're on. There's a button on the front of the radio to activate the scan mode. Notice it says if it's being used. There's a lot of channels on these radios. It takes a while to scan through them all. We don't recommend you use scan during a mission. We recommend you use an individual radio for each channel you're using. If you use scan, you're liable to miss something.
Yeah. Let me add something to this. That select switch down there that you push to change between zone and channel, it's a very momentary push. If you push it down for an extended period of time, like 2 seconds, what happens is the radio goes into a menu mode. And there's a variety of menus that are available, which you really don't want to mess with. If that happens, the key on the far right-hand side there is an escape or a key select switch or button. That will exit from that menu. So just be aware that if you push that button in for too long, it will go to menu mode. So keep those pushes very short.
That's good to know. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
One other thing, that antenna connector is a type N connector. You have to be careful because somebody shows up with a mag mount antenna, more than likely it's going to have a PL259 on it, and those don't go together.
Well, the sad part about that is they will. Unfortunately, it will break the end connector that you screw the PL259 into.
Well, you have to work at it, I think, to do it. But it can be, anything can be made to do if you want to. If you want to force it.
Because unfortunately, those barrels are the exact same size and dimension, so they will fit. And if you try screwing it down, it will mash the contacts of the end connector and possibly short the radio out, which is not a good thing. So yes, you'd have to be very aware of that. There is actually, I believe it's still online, an axis that talks about PL259 versus end connectors, so you can see what they look like and not mix the two unless you have the appropriate adapters to do that. Any good communications officer goes to a mission like this, and you're going to have a whole kit, a variety of adapters that will match almost anything to anything, because you really don't know what you're going to go up against. But I mean, if you stand there trying to make two coaxes together, and one's got a PL259 and the other one's got an N, you need that barrel connector in the middle that'll adapt to that. So yeah, there are a lot of adapters out there to that point. So any other questions or comments on that radio? Did you go through all you wanted to, Major? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the Johnson 5112. Been a long time since I've seen one. But anyway, here's a diagram of the controls. Again, this was covered in iCut. If you're handed one of these and you haven't seen one in a while, before you head off with it and try to operate, ask for a refresher on it. Again, the antenna connection, power volume control knob, the channel select knob to select the zone and the channel. Always make sure the batteries are charged before you head out with one of these. It's always good to make sure the batteries are charged before you go.
Okay. Let me add here too that the channel knob on top is a 16-channel rotary knob. It goes one direction to 16 and then stops. Then you have to go back the other way. Unlike the channel select button on the 5300 base radio, it just keeps turning forever. It has no physical stops to it. So this one does not continue around. It stops at 16 and then you go back the other direction to change channels. Okay, let's see.
Front panel view of the 5112. Your shows you where the microphone's located. So when you speak, you might want to hold it where the microphone is near your mouth. Speakers on the bottom. Where your display's at your scroll up and down for zones and menus, your squelch select, and your menus and items selected. Again, these can get complicated if you haven't used one in a while. So if you're handed one and sent that on a ground team, make sure you know how to operate it before you leave. You don't want to be fiddling with it, trying to figure out how it works when you're out on a mission. And again, if you're in a van, the driver does not use the radio while the van's in operation.
Yeah, don't be the person that holds this thing to your ear like it's a telephone and try to talk into it. I've seen that happen before. So just be aware of where the microphone is actually at.
Another thing on a ground team before everybody heads out is to just do a radio check to make sure your radio is going to work. That goes along with understanding how to use it too.
Yes, that's part of the required activities for ground teams and air crews, that they must do radio checks on all assigned frequencies before they depart. Meaning the airplane doesn't taxi till they've done their radio checks. Ground team does not leave base until they've done their radio checks. That's very clear when we give them their briefings, that they must do that. Other questions, comments? Okay.
Okay, hold the microphone about 2 inches from your mouth. Talk at a normal voice level. Don't shout. On HF, use a command voice, project. Again, do not shout or yell. On HF, your power output will change depending on your voice level. So that's why it kind of says use a command voice. But if you ever have the opportunity to use an HF radio, I have not, well, I shouldn't say I haven't. I rarely see one on a mission because of the antenna size. But like it says on VHF, just your normal voice, do not shout. On HF, use a command voice and project, but don't shout.
Yeah. On VHF, if you shout, it will make your voice distorted. And if you're using the P25 digital connections, that could cause your voice to cut out entirely because it will overload the radio. So yeah, just talk in a normal voice like you would on a phone. Works just fine.
Okay, as a mission radio operator, you should be able to make the proper connections to the radio, antennas, power, and microphone. Find the correct zone and channel for any given designator, set the volume, start and stop the scan feature if you're going to use it. How to call, receive calls from other stations, fill out the proper log, and we'll cover the log a little bit later, and update your status boards. Any questions about any of those tasks? Okay.
See, we already did that one.
Yep. Okay. So that completes L0002. We're going to get into message handling next. Why don't we take about 5? My computer says it's 8:21. Let's get back together at 8:26 and get into message handling. That'll give me time to find the. I have your PowerPoint. I gotta make sure I can find it.
Yeah, if not, I've got it available. So.
Okay. I might use yours, so I don't run into any bandwidth problems.
That's fine.
This has been pretty good so far this evening.
Yeah, your voice hasn't cut out or interrupted at all yet. So.
Otherwise, I might end up calling up my 8 quarterly unit finance reports and putting them on here.
Oops. I had FOUO information. Come on now. Let's see. Where do I want that? Do I have that here? Yeah, if you want, I can bring that up.
Okay.
I should make it easier to read. Okay, just let me know when we're all ready again.
Okay, I'll wait till about 8, what I tell everyone, 8:26. I really I can't see all the pictures, so I can't tell who's here and who isn't. Give everyone a chance to get up, walk around, take a drink.
Yeah, and let me reiterate to everybody too that at the beginning of this session tonight, our email addresses for Major Felber and myself. Any questions regarding communications that you may have, contact us. We'll be glad to get back to you with answers.
Good evening. This is First Lieutenant Mongello. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Mr. Bartel, I just want to say I'm here in Massachusetts. You sound like a sports announcer out here, and I can't pick his name. You got the voice for radio. Just, I don't know if I got it now. You got me. I got to get back on the AM and figure out who it is. But you might have a future there.
There you go. At my age, probably not. But although I don't know how long can you sit in front of a microphone, I suppose. But yeah, I'd be much better on radio than television. I'll guarantee you that. But
you and me both, brother.
So okay, so we've got that's Massachusetts. I know we've got a couple I've seen from Delaware. I saw one in Florida. And I saw one in Texas. Do we have any other states represented?
Got Virginia.
Virginia. Okay, cool. I should have brought my sheet up from downstairs. Trying to remember call signs. I know Delaware is Diamond Flight, Texas is Big Bend, Florida is Manatee. I'm trying to remember Massachusetts now.
We got lobster and baked beans. I don't know.
Ooh. I don't think those are legitimate call signs, however.
Oh, you were talking call signs. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going in different direction. Sorry about that.
This is Doug Peterson. I was wondering if I could get a CAP ID or if there's been one in the chat room and I missed it so I can fill out the ES.
Who do you need a CAP ID for?
Filling out the ES, and I got a mission number off the chat room, so I'm good there.
Okay, one of the first three entries, I think the first entry is Major Felber's email address and CAP ID, and I think the third one down is mine.
Where, though?
At the very top of the chat.
Let me go look. I looked there and I did not see anything that I wanted to see. But you said, I have Jonathan number, Fernando Lomez, but I'm not seeing your name.
Are you looking at people or are you looking at chat?
I'm looking at chat.
Okay, go over to the people.
I'll go over to people.
Yeah, and then you should see Major Felber up first, and then I'm up third.
I see telephone numbers.
Okay. This Major Felber, my CAP ID 250084.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
I see there's like 99 entries in the chat, so. Okay. Let's get started. We're going to talk about message handling. So, the primary reason for any CAP net is the passing of message traffic. Doesn't matter if it's formal written traffic or informal verbal, whether it's real or for training purposes. The handling of that message is the reason for our net structure, discipline, operation. That's why we have radios on our missions. We have a lot of informal, verbal traffic between aircraft, ground teams, and mission base. And we might have formal traffic. If there's a reason for a message to be kept for record copy, something that needs to be stored with the records, then that will be a formal written message. Okay. Any message that is not delivered fails the mission and the responsibility of the CAP communication system. So that's our job as a mission radio operator. You receive a message for relay or for delivery, it's your responsibility to see that gets delivered or relayed on. And we're going to discuss how we do that. Okay, a formal message. There's times when we have to use formal written messages when communicating the following between an incident command post or other bases. Formal messages should be used in place of informal communications. Receiving or giving work assignments, requests for support or resources, reporting progress of assigned tasks. Whenever you need to have a record of that communications, you would use a formal message. Okay. A formal message, again, review CAPR 100-3, Chapter 4. The CAP message form is a CAP form 105. And CAPR 100-3, Attachment 7, has a checklist you can follow if you should have to handle a formal message. Okay.
We don't have a handout, so ignore that line.
Yeah, we're going to show you a picture of a CAP Form 105. You can download a blank CAP Form 105 from the CAP website, or just Google CAP Form 105 and you'll get a link to it. And you can have a blank copy. Matter of fact, you're going to have a homework after tonight. Sometime after this, we are going to ask you to generate a short message using a CAP Form 105 and email it to either myself or Colonel Bartell. So let's see what this CAP Form 105 is all about. It has three parts. A heading. Go back to that other.
Yeah.
A heading, the text, and then an ending. And we'll discuss all three parts.
Yeah.
Okay, the message heading. Based on information from the message originator. Attaches to the, is written in the heading of the message. Think of the heading as the information that would be found on the envelope of a letter, who it's going to go to, and some other information. Okay. The heading order. First, there will be a message number. The message number is assigned by the radio operator. Usually, you keep a message log. And usually you start with number 1 as your first message of the year. And you keep, depending on the number of messages you handle, the next message will be number 2, number 3, etc. The precedence is assigned by the originator to indicate the urgency of delivery. Then it will be followed by a date time group. Identifies the message origination, date, and time. The from line is from the originator. And the CAP pamphlet 1-2, page 18, I believe refers to office symbols.
Yep.
It could, but it could be something other than an office symbol. We'll get into that in a little bit. The to line is who it's addressed to, who has to do the action. There may be an addressee in the info line. The info line is a copy list, just for their information. No action is required. And the subject is what the message is about. Okay, so here is the heading part of the CAP Form 105. Notice at the top there's a message number. It could be the message number that you put on it if you're originating the message. If you're receiving the message from someone, under incoming, you would write the message number they give you. And if you send the message to someone under outgoing, you would then put your message number for that message on it. For instance, I may receive message number 23 from Red Fox 79er and have to send it out on our local VHF net. It might be my message number 1 when I resend it. The message number changes depending on who is handling it. The precedence could be routine, priority, immediate. Routine is a routine message, handled in normal order as it's received. Priority would be have some kind of time value. You might need to get some information to someone within 2 or 3 hours. You would put a precedence of priority on. Immediate means all other traffic stops, and that message is sent immediately on its way. Let's move to the date time group. And that's correct. This is all transmitted over the radio. I'm going to show you a sample message in a little bit, and we'll do a sample transmission based on that message. The date time group is the day. It'd be today's the 10th Zulu time, or the 11th Zulu time. So a message I would originate right now would be, the date time group would be 110135 Zulu, July 2020. Some people put the whole year. I just like to put the last 2 digits of the year. Again, the
red calls for the last 2.
The date time group of the message I would originate right now would be 110135 Zulu, July 20. From, who's originating, I am, so be from Red Fox 9 or 8 to whoever it's going to, Red Fox 7-9. I would not be sending an info copy to anybody, so I would leave that blank. If there was someone who needed an information copy, their address would be in there. It could be a call sign, it could be an office symbol, or some other means of identifying them. The subject, what the message is about, keep it short. I'll give you an example later. And the group count. In the text, we always count the number of word groups. There could be words, a combination of words and numbers, but there'd be a group count so that the receiving operator can look at his message and put down, yeah, I've received all the groups, okay. I'll explain the group count a little later. Then the pro word break. So let me run through this real fast with the heading. Red Fox 7-9er, this is Red Fox 9 or 8. Message number 2, routine. Time 110137 Zulu, July 20. From Red Fox 9 or 8 to Red Fox 7-9er. Subject, training plan. Groups 1-1. Break. So that's an example of what information to put in the heading and how to transmit it over the radio. With the break, I'll wait, and then I'll say text follows. So then we would transmit the text of the message. The text contains the information the originator wishes to convey to the addressees. Should be prudent and economical in choice of the words. In other words, keep it short and to the point. Grammatical correctness is not a requirement. The text is separated from the heading and the ending by the pro-word break. So at the end of the text, I again say the pro-word break.
Yeah, and keeping it short is very important. We had one person that became a very hated person when he put out a message over the radio that consisted of about 4 paragraphs. Nobody liked him because everybody's got to write all that down. So, yeah, keep it very, very short.
There's kind of a standard of 25 words or less.
Yep.
Okay. The operator, at the end, there's operator's notes. There may be operator's notes. They may have pertinent comments, would include the pro word more to follow if there's a second message. And then the last word transmitting by the sending station is the pro word over. So after I send the text, I would use the pro word, I would use the word break, over. And I've turned it over to the receiving station. And then the receiving station will acknowledge if they need something repeated, they'll say again, or they'll say Roger. Sometimes you'll hear people give you the message, say Roger number 4, or Roger the message. It's usually best to say Roger message number 4. The message checklist in CAPR 100-3 attachment 7 provides an order for each element in a CAP message and includes the correct pro words. Pro words like break. Let's apply the message checklist from the viewpoint of the message sender and the message receiver. Okay. So Red Fox 7-9er, this is Red Fox 908, message number 2. Routine, time 110140 Zulu, July 20, from Red Fox 908. Hold that message on there, hold that slide up there just a second. Okay, the precedence, notice the precedence, routine, priority. Z stands for immediate.
O is immediate. Z is flash.
Okay. O is immediate. Z is flash. I've always used Z. I've never used either of those pro words. Hopefully you'll never use those pro words. I mean,
we'll get into a definition of all those shortly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. The message flow from the sender again, 2 is the action addressee. 2, Red Fox 7-9er. I'm not going to have an info address. Subject, training plan. Group count, 03, over. Break. Group count, 03, break. Send, training plan. Break. Over. That was a very simple 3-group message. I had a group count of 3. The text was send training plan. I'm going to do that again. 2, Red Fox 7-9er. Subject training plan. Groups 03. Break. Send training plan. Break. Over. When you read the text of a message, read it at copying speed. Assume someone's writing it down. You don't want to speak too fast. Sometimes you might have to repeat it. Send training plan. I say again, send training plan. Break over. From the receiver point of view, copy the message as it's transmitted. Don't add any words, don't leave any words off. When the sender is finished, ask for fills, roger receipt of the message, and the sender will provide the time the message was rogered. And then deliver the message to all addressees in the time required by the precedents. Hopefully the addressees will all be close to you at a mission base or somewhere. They may not be. Sometimes you may have to relay it to another station over VHF or even HF to another destination.
Okay. For anybody that was confused by the word fills, when you take a message down, if you miss words in the middle, don't just put your pencil down in disgust. Keep writing everything you hear, and then you can go back and ask for anything, a sentence that you missed, a word that you missed, anything in the message that you missed. That's your opportunity to ask for it. When the sender asks, does anybody need a fill? And that's when you would come up, and we're going to have pro words here pretty soon that will help you ask for a proper fill. But that's what that means.
In message logging, both the sending and receiving station must enter the message number and or date time group in the station log, either a CAP form 110 or ICS 309, and note if it was sent or received. Most of the time you'll have one of those logs. It'll usually be a CAP form 110 unless it's a multi-agency mission, then you'll probably use an ICS form. The receiving station will enter the message time and the sending station ID in the message log, and they will assign a number to the message. So whenever I receive a message, usually the message, only formal message I receive is the intercom message each week. So I have the message number the sending station used when they sent it, and then I assign my own message number to it when I receive it, because I will probably retransmit it on one of our VHF nets later that day. A sample message log. And this is Red Fox 7 Niners. So it has some of the messages. I have nowhere near that many messages. On the National Traffic Net, they usually send a Whiskey Tango message, which is a training message you receive. It's coded groups. Usually, I forget how many. It's been a while since I've been. Seven coded groups. And you log on to the communications website and e-services, and there's a web application. You enter that message as you received it, and it'll tell you if you received it properly and how long it took to get from the originator to the destination. And then every week, National Headquarters sends an intercom message. So you'd use a message log such as this. Notice it has the message numbers is transmitted, is received, the date time group, who it's from, the time you received it, and who it was for, and the time you sent it. Colonel Vaughtel, I'll let you add anything you'd like to put in there.
Yeah, you can see the column in the center there that says, say, Tri-Blade 3 Niner, message number 49. That's who I got the message from, and that was their message number. What that helps facilitate is, if I got something wrong in that message, I need to go back to the person that sent it to me, and then I can say, okay, I've got to go back to Tri-Blade 3 Niner and say, hey, I need a resend on your message number 49. That way he can go to his log, see exactly what message that is, and send it to me as necessary. The date to time group and the office you see there, that's how the message would actually be identified, is by the sender, in this case NHQ/DOKO, who is the National Director of Communications Operations. and the day and time that they actually wrote the message. So that's the identifier for the message. The far right-hand column, I just put a couple of words describing what that message is all about. So if somebody says, didn't we have a message about Whiskey Tango messages, an intercom about them, I can go back through and look at my intercom messages and say, oh yeah, right here. And I can let them know what intercom number it was. And then send it to them if they need it. So okay, that's the purpose of a log. Any station that's receiving message traffic must be keeping a message log, so you can assign your numbers as you receive them. Yeah, mine's a little easier to read than the one up above. But that's, again, mine's just an Excel spreadsheet, and you can do it any way you want, just as long as the pertinent information is there. Any questions about message logs?
Yeah, again, if you're at some kind of mission that requires you to have formal message, usually the communications unit leader will have a packet of forms you may need. This isn't the CAP form. You might have to just write it out on a piece of paper and record it somewhere later.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, the bottom section of the CAP Form 105 provides a means of tracking the message in and out of the station. The left side notes who the message was received from, when, and the operator who received it. The right side notes the same information for when a message leaves the station.
Yeah, there should be pictures of all this here shortly. There it is.
And there it is. See on the top after the word break, who did you receive the message from? The date, time group it was received. And then if you sent it out to someone else, who you sent it to. The date and time group it was sent out.
Yeah,
Why is this kind of... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, also note there's another box here after the year, and that's the operator initials. So whoever received that message puts their initials there. So if there's some question about the message, they can look at that sheet of paper and say, who took this? And you'll be identified. And then as you were saying, the message sent to, if you're sending it out, their call sign, when, and again, your initials, so they know who sent the message out. Okay. And that's the operator. Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason it's important to know that, you might be on the radio at the time you receive a message, and then an hour later a question about it comes up and you might not be there. You might be off doing some other function. That way they know, whoever's on the radio at that point knows who to ask or knows to get a hold of you to find the information they need. Go ahead, you wanted to say something about operator notes.
Yeah, it's just, anything you realize that you might want to say about that message, keep in mind, you may not change anything in that message as it's sent. I don't care if you know for a fact that the information is wrong. If you're copying it, you copy it exactly as it came out. In the operator notes, you may want to make note that, hey, this information is inaccurate, the date is wrong, or something of that nature. So you could pass that along when you transmit the message to somebody else. Say, that's a wrong date probably. But the only one that can change this message is the originator that wrote it. Nobody else can make any changes to the text of the message anywhere along the line. So if it's wrong, a new message would have to be put out with the correct information. This particular form, as Major Felber mentioned earlier, is in eServices under Forms. This particular one you're looking at here is a Word doc message form. So you can fill it out online and save them. I go with the intercom message every week, type it in here, and save it to a file. So I keep a blank one on my computer desktop all the time. It's also in a PDF version that you can print out and handwrite if you want to. So when you get your homework, you probably want to go into e-services and get the Microsoft Word one and fill it out there, because it'll be easier to email it by emailing the file rather than trying to scan it. So, okay, Major, anything else on this one?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Message must be delivered to the addressee in a timely manner. Priority messages less than 6 hours. Routine messages by the start of the next duty day. This is kind of written for message center type of stuff. Pretty much when you handle a routine message, you're going to be able to hand it to someone in the same room you're in. Priority message less than 6 hours. Like I said, sometimes priority messages have a time criticality to them. There may be a message that has to be delivered within 2 hours. There might be an operator's note saying cancel message if not delivered by a certain time, because it would have no meaning then. So, pay attention to the priorities. You're going to receive the message, you're going to record it, write it down, and probably hand it to your communications unit leader, and they can handle delivering it. In some circumstances, a written receipt may be required, just like a UPS package. I've never seen that happen, but it might happen.
Yeah, well, when we pass our message forms at the missions over to operations, either air ops or ground ops, we have a 3-part form. And as we hand it to them, we have them write down their name, or sign it, and put down the time it was delivered. And then we retain the back form and take it back to comm. So if anybody comes back to us and says, hey, we never got this information, you can look up your copy and say, yeah, I gave it to this person at in a time. So yeah, we do get signatures on here at times. Again, that's a local practice. It's not a required practice, but it's a good one to get in the habit of. Okay.
Here we go. There's the definitions of a precedent. Precedence, flash, immediate, priority, routine, and date-time group. I take it on the next slides, they're going to have the definitions. Okay.
Yes.
Flash, Z. Hopefully you'll never use this. Reserved for initial enemy contact messages. Handled as fast as humanly possible. Time limit not to exceed 10 minutes. It has precedence over all other traffic on the circuit.
Yeah, this is not something that I, as a CAP radio operator, ever want to initiate. Never. I don't want to be anywhere near where live fire is going on, folks. So, yeah, that does not mean you won't be in a position at some point to pass something like this as a relay. So you just need to be aware of it. Likelihood, extremely rare. Not likely, but just so you're aware of it.
Immediate. In the military, this precedence is reserved for messages related to situations gravely affecting security of the nation, civil disturbance, reports or warnings of a natural disaster, requests for directions. In Civil Air Patrol, it is appropriate to use immediate precedence for urgent operational mission traffic where priority will not suffice. Immediate messages are transmitted and processed and delivered immediately in the order received ahead of all messages of lower precedence, handled as quickly as possible, not to exceed 60 minutes within the station. Again, messages of lower precedence will be interrupted on all circuits. So if you should receive an immediate precedence message or are asked to transmit an immediate precedence traffic, it gets handled immediately ahead of everything else. Priority is P. Reserved for traffic requiring expeditious action by the addressee when routine will not suffice. Priority messages are handled ahead of all routine messages. Example, a request for supplies or equipment during the conduct of an operation, time-critical items requiring a quick response, and situation reports. They're to be handled as quickly as possible with in-station handling time not to exceed 6 hours. The only priority I've heard was when air crew was arriving, expected within a couple of hours of a local airport and needed transportation. And there was a priority message sent advising someone at the destination the transportation being needed at a certain time. Time critical. Priority messages ahead of all routine message, often used for, you might hear them, and try to handle them in less than 6 hours. Routine is the usual precedence for all time. Type of messages that are not sufficient urgency to require a higher precedence. They're just handled in the order received, and after all messages of a higher precedence. Routine is normally used. Examples include any message that requires the documentation of its transmission or delivery concerning normal operations, programs, projects, periodic or consolidated reports. They should be handled as soon as the traffic flow allows. The question, who determines the precedence? The message originator, not the originating station, the originator, the person that hands you the information that needs to be sent. They determine how quickly it needs to be sent and what the priority should be.
Yeah. Do not get priority, or don't get precedence and importance mixed up. These have nothing to do with what the importance of the message is. It's got to do strictly with how soon that message needs to get where it's going. That's the only thing the precedence is defining. Okay.
Routine messages require rapid transmission. It's the most used message format. And again, the in-station handling time no more than the beginning of the next day. That's kind of written for comm center type operations. Mm-hmm. Usually, any messages we sent are going to be handled within the context of the mission realm.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, the date time group format, the date is 2 digits. Time in Zulu is 4 digits. The month is 3 letters. And the last 2 digits of the year. The format shown down below, if I was originating a message right now, it would be 110200 Zulu JUL 20. I'll say that again, 110200 Zulu JUL Juliet Uniform Lima 20. And it's the date time group is preceded by the pro word time. When you're sending the message, you just say time 110200 Zulu July 20. Okay. And then your necessary pro words you might use when you're sending a message are message, priority, routine, time, from, to, info, break. Again, info is an information addressee. It's just information to someone. They don't have to take any action on it.
Okay.
Helpful pro words. I spell. If you have to spell out a word, like and, you would say I spell Alpha November Delta, and. Wait means wait a few seconds. Wait out means I'm going to call you back. It means wait out, the communication's over, I will call you back. Correction. means you made a mistake. Back up and continue with the last correct word. Figures is a group of characters beginning with a number. An example of that would be figures 1, 2, 3, Alpha, Lima, Delta. I precede that group of characters and numbers with the pro word figures. It can be numbers, it could be letters, but it has to use the word figures, it has to begin with a number. And initials is a group of one or more letters. If there's a message, the intercom message is from headquarters DOKO, so I would say from initials Hotel Quebec, Slant Delta Oscar, Kilo Oscar.
Yeah, just as an aside here, the latest 100-3 has dropped the pro word initials. If you're going to do something, it's called I spell, and then spell out the following. But yeah, you will not find initials in the current 100-3. So I probably should have taken that out. But anyway.
That's probably why I haven't used it.
Yeah, you will still hear Red Fox 1.7 using that. It was the procedure to be followed up until one of the most recent iterations of the 100-3. But they did remove that. So just be aware, if you hear it, that's what's coming.
Say again, or I say again. All before, all after, word before, word after. I'm going to give you an example of this when I show you a sample 105. If you need all before would be asking for a repeat of any words before a certain word. All after would be a repeat of all the words after a certain word. Now, I'll show you a sample form and I'll kind of demonstrate those pro words. Speak slower means you're speaking too fast. Talk more slower. Words twice means say every word twice. That's usually necessary sometimes on HF.
Yeah, and let me add here that when we talk about words twice, yes, you're going to be saying every word twice, but you're going to be breaking a message up into no more than 3 or 4 words. So say the 3 or 4 words, pause, then say those same 3 or 4 words over again, and then move on to the next 3 or 4 words. Pause, say them again, and continue that pattern until the message is done. That's what they're talking about with words twice. Again, on VHF, not usually a big issue. However, you do this on HF, and it can be quite a nightmare getting these messages sometimes, the way propagation has been in recent times. So it's a very important tool. Okay. Let's see.
Disregard this transmission. As it says, oops, never mind. Just disregard what was sent.
Right.
ICS message traffic, ICS form 213 may be used when working with other agencies. It uses the ICS protocol for technical messages. I don't have a sample of it, so that's one you'll have to get a copy of. Again, if you're doing a multi-agency mission, the communications unit leader should have all the forms necessary.
Should have. And that is soon going to be the responsibility of each radio operator, by the way, is to come with forms.
Yeah.
But that's to come. That's not at the current day and time. So, okay.
This is the checklist for message passing for attachment 7 to CAPR 100-3. So you might want to make a copy of it. You'll want to refer to it when you'll make up your practice message that you're going to email to us during the coming week. And the call sign, this is the pro word message. Just use a routine precedence.
Yeah, that's all part of it.
And this is the second page of it. Kind of talks about the ending, pro-word groups, pro-word break, break after the text, operator's notes, and then over. Always wait until the receiving station is either asked for repeats or fills before you end the transmission. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to show a sample.
Mind going back? Sorry, do you mind going back to the page prior to that, where 1, 2, and 3 was? Previous step. Yep. Thanks a lot.
There's a question about when it's due. Let's say by Thursday evening, just so we have it before Friday.
So you want us to do a sample message form and send it to you? What call sign should we, Red Fox?
I'll show you a sample message form.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let me stop sharing so you can do that. So everybody get what they want off of this? Okay. Stop sharing there.
I had to find it there. Okay. I wish I could get rid of this stuff over here. Can everyone see that?
No, sir.
Negative.
Not yet.
Let's try that again. Is that the window? Okay, can you see that?
Yes, sir. I can see it.
Okay. So as we go through this, this is a CAP form 105. Notice one thing I wanted to point out. This message number, notice I made a cross out with my initials after it. Never erase anything, never obliterate it. Simply cross it out with a single line entry and initial it. Okay? So this message I created this morning, page 1 of 1, it's only one page. I received it as message number 35. The precedence was routine. The time was 10:02:00 Zulu, July 20. From mission base to ground team 1. No info addressee. Subject current weather. Group count 1-1. Break. Current weather at mission base. Temperature figures 9-1 Foxtrot. Wind 020/7. No precipitation. Break. So there's 11 groups in there. How did I get 11 groups? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Any questions how I got a group count of 11?
I have a question on the Word document. It only lets you put 5 characters in at a time. Are we just to continue that word to the next group?
Okay, there's 2 forms. There's a form 105 and a form 105A. You're probably looking at the form 105A, which is meant for coded groups.
Yes, it is 105A. Okay.
Yeah, that form is specifically to be used for the Whiskey Tango message. That helps you keep track of the groups as you receive them. That's the form 105. I kept it very simple. The message received, I put in the message received from mission base at time 10:03:00 Zulu, July 20, and my initials. I have not sent that to anyone else, and I have no operators notes.
Could you do the group count again, please?
Okay, groups 1-1. Current weather at mission base, that's 5 groups. Temperature figures 9-1 Foxtrot. That's 6-7. Wind 8. 020/7. It's group 9. 10. 11.
Thank you.
Notice the number letter combinations or the wind speed, each count as a separate group. At least the way I have the message written. Certain words you have to be careful. Call sign, depending how it's written in the message, call sign, if it's written as all one word, would be one word. It could be written as 2 separate words with a space between them. It'd be 2 separate words. So your homework for this week is to use a CAP form 105 and generate a radio message. May not be perfect, we'll critique them. We may use some of them for future messages. As we're supposed, as a wing, we're supposed to generate messages on the national traffic system occasionally.
About every 6 weeks, yes.
And if you want to, it can be handwritten or digital. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. Would you mind if I shared a message with them?
Sure. Let me get out of this now. Does everyone understand this? Okay, go ahead. Oh, let me stop presenting. Okay. Now you can choose who you want it to go from or to.
Yeah. Can everybody see this? Okay, this is the intercom message that came out last week. What I'm going to do is read through this as if I were transmitting it to you, just like it would have come out over the air. Again, HF is a very, very difficult thing to listen to, and you have to concentrate on what's happening. So this won't be near as exciting on this mode of communication as it is on the HF, unless I put up a radio with a lot of noise in the background to distract you. But anyway, this is what will come off the air as you would hear. This is my message number 32. It is a routine time 010000 Zulu, July 20. I say again, routine time 010000 Zulu, July 20. From I spell November Hotel Quebec slant Delta Oscar Kilo Oscar. I say again, from NHQ slant DOKO to all communicators. To all communicators. Subject, intercom figures 370. Groups, figures 19er. So again, subject, intercom 370. Groups 19. Break. Text follows. Any member of a wing can accept a, I spell whiskey tango message. A whiskey tango message. Then enter the message via the communications web page, period. Web page, period. Break and end. Does any station need a fill? At that point, anybody that did not hear a part of it could ask for any part, and I would read back to them. But that's kind of what it would sound like coming off the radio. It sounds like it's very slow. It is, because I have to understand when I'm reading this message that somebody at the other end is writing this down. And I will guarantee you I can talk a whole lot faster than you can write. So you have to be really cognizant of how you talk and how you speak, how quickly, your tone of voice, and repeat the words twice. Again, I broke it down into kind of logical sequences here. I could have done 3 or 4 words rather than the 2, but I thought it broke up better the way it did. Would anybody have had a problem copying that message the way I said it? Yeah, so that's the whole idea, is you need to get the message through. You want to get it through the first time, because the longer it takes to get the message through to everybody, the longer you're tying up that channel. And you want to be as quick and brief as possible. So when you guys write messages, this is a format to follow. Keep them short. 19 words, average. You really don't want to exceed 25. You can make it 3, 4, 5, depending on what your message is and how you can get it across. Let me scroll down here. I received this message from, misspelled, of course, Red Fox Niner 1. I gotta go correct this. On 020007, July of 20. And of course, I should have had my initials there. So that's what one of the intercom messages looks like. They come out. That's how they would be read over the air. So don't be surprised, by the way, if we pick on a couple of people next time after you've sent your sample messages to us. I might just ask one of you to read your message over the phone here, just to get practice at how you transmit one of these, because it does take some getting used to. So, I do have 369 other examples, by the way, if anybody's interested. They're all in notebooks on my desk in the basement. So if anybody comes back and says, hey, I need this intercom message from 2 years ago, give me the number. I can go back to my book 2 years ago and pull up that intercom message for it. So anyway, okay, let me stop sharing there.
What is the incoming and outgoing one more time?
Okay, the incoming and outgoing. The incoming, if you were writing this message down at your station, the incoming message for you, in this case, would have been 32, because I'm the one sending this. You're receiving it. Okay, on this particular message, that's the message number of the station that I was receiving from. So this was Red Fox Niner 1's message number 14. I went down in my last message log and put it in, and it's my message number 32. So if you had to come back to me and say, hey, I need some information on your message 32, I can go to my log, see, okay, that's intercom 370. I can bring that up in my set of files and send you that message and give it to you. So the incoming is the message number of the person sending the message. The outgoing is your message number in your log. So if you pass this on to somebody else, it's your message number, in this case 32, going out, because that's where it's at on your log. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just one point of clarification, though.
Certainly.
The message log number, did you say it rolls over at the calendar year?
I've seen people do it at fiscal year, but yeah, 99% of them all start a new message log on January 1st. So
it's up to the person, but generally speaking, it's once a year.
Yes. Let me do this here. Hang on one second.
It could be. Also, if you're at a mission base, that activity is going to end. You might have only 2 or 3 written messages. However, once that mission activity is over, that's it. 6 months later, you're in another mission activity. Your first message will be number 1 if you handle any written messages at that activity.
Yeah. And again, this is my message log as it goes back. You can see as of July 7th, I was on message 33. I have not typed up and written up message 34, which came out last Wednesday. There's where 2020 is at. I handled 60 messages into my station last year, and it just, every year, it just kind of starts anew. So yeah, you start out with a message number 1 at the first of each year for your log. And as Major Felber was saying, if it's a mission, you're going to have a log for that mission. So your incoming and outgoing message numbers will be based on your log at the mission. This is my home station log. So these are what I handle here. Any other questions on that? No. Okay. We'll get rid of that.
Do you keep a separate log for received and a separate log for transmitted?
No. No, you will make out. Hang on a second here again. I have one log, and you can see these are my message numbers over here in the first column. So every time I add another message, I get a new message number for mine. So I put the date that I received it, what it is, date, time, group, and originator. Here's who I got it from, Triblade 60, and that was Triblade 60's message 220. And that was a Whiskey Tango message on that particular date. So as far as your log is concerned, you're going to have one log for everything you receive into your station. And every time you transmit that message to somebody else, it will contain your message number 32 in this case, from what I had up earlier. So even though you'll see at the bottom of the message form, there were 3 spaces. So if you retransmitted it once, you'd write it down there the first time. If you retransmitted it again, you'd write it down a second time, a third time, and sometimes you'll do it more than that. You just have to keep track of it on either on the back or on another sheet. So you know who you sent it to, what day and time you did that, and keep track of it that way. But no, you do not keep separate received and sent logs.
And for the purposes of your homework, you're originating the message, so you're the originator. It's going to be your message number 1, unless you want to be creative.
Yep.
Feel free to take license to be creative if you'd like to. You can send it to either me or Colonel Bartell. Our email addresses were in one of the first chats on when class started this evening. So that's your homework. Generate a message. I've received one already.
Cool. Let me add one more thing for your homework for next week. It won't be a message, but you do need to download a copy of either the ICS 214 or the CAP Form 110. Because we'll be talking about logging next week, and we'll be wanting you to log next week's class. So your log entries would be such as entered class at such and such a time, received a direction from Kirk 30 Acre at such and such a time. Next one might be module L0002 started at this time, ended at this time. A question like this was asked at this time. Just kind of keep a log of what's happening on next week's class, and then you can email that log to us. Sound like fun? I saw an emphatic no from somebody there, but you do have to be used to keeping logs. Everything you do that keep a log task is going to show up on ground team member, MSA, mission scanner, radio operator, communications unit leader. All of them have your ability to keep a log. So pull up a copy of one of those 2 log forms, fill it out appropriately at the top, and then fill out the entries as we go through the evening. And then you can email it to us at the end. Okay, any questions about that?
Technically, if you've already been signed off on that task, don't worry about it. You might want to do it again for practice.
Yep.
But again, if your task is signed off from like 4 or 5 years ago, I might recommend you
Yes.
do it again.
Yep.
Because there are some sets that, oh, if it's not from this year, they'll deny it. So.
Yep. So anyway, it should be fun.
Some of this stuff you might never see again, but we wanted to give you a little background on it.
I'll guarantee you will see logs again, however.
Actually, I shouldn't say that. Group 1 is having a hybrid exercise next month. And part of the requirements, we're going to send an intercom message, and everyone taking part, all the participants, have to copy it on a Cap Form 105 and upload it into the WIMR's mission files to get credit for that mission. That will be like August 22nd. Well, thank you for your patience this evening. Any questions, email either myself or Colonel Bartel. Email us your Cap Form 105 when you've created the message. And any other questions, email's fine. Be glad to answer them. Thank you for your patience this evening. We knew this would be a long one. We'll hope to wrap it up next week.
Yes. So, okay. Thank you all.
Yeah. So before we start, I just want to say thank you for everybody for showing up. Again, we're finishing up all the classes starting next week. So hopefully you've been through most of them. If not, please contact the instructors and they'll find a way to help catch up the tasks you miss. Last thing I want to include, I'm putting something in the chat right now. It's a link to the Illinois Wing webpage. Some people have asked about the videos. This is where they're going to be stored if you guys want to go back and check them. Obviously, this one won't be up right immediately. It's going to take a couple days, but any of the previous trainings we went through, you can go back and watch the videos. So, all right. So.
Yeah, all the other files are in that WIMR's mission number under the mission files. So any of the outlines we've presented or the PowerPoints that we've presented so far in this class are up in that mission files link. So again.
Quick question about the form that we're going to be filling out, either the ICS 214 or the Cap Form 110. So when we're documenting keeping that log of the time and when questions are, there's a lot of questions in the chat room. What are we keeping track of? There's a lot of communication going on. So how much do we have to keep track of? Do you want us to just keep track of like 10 questions, the first 10 questions that happens, or is it the entire?
No. Keep it kind of short. I don't want to know every question that gets asked by everybody. No. Okay. If there's a particular point that was brought up, you might want to log that.
Gotcha.
A particular question. I wouldn't expect all your 110s to look identical because most people will have, certain things that will pique their interest. Others won't. Mm-hmm. If you are keeping a log of transmissions on the radio, every one of them would have to be on that form. But right. No, the 214 is a ICS activity log, basically defining the activities of a mission. The 110 is actually the radio log. I don't care which form you use. All I want you to do is, when a module starts, what module it is. If you have a question, note that on there. Put it in the chat too, but note it on your log. But don't copy all the questions that show up on the chat. You don't have enough paper for that generally. But yeah, just keep track of kind of the flow of that meeting we have next week.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you'll learn just with practice what needs to be recorded, what doesn't. So let's say, well, I'm going to give the example. You're an MSA at a mission. You're working for the IC. Your job is a scribe form. Basically, whatever they do, you write it down. Well, you're not going to go write down at this time they went and got a cup of coffee. You don't need that. But at this time, the local sheriff came in to talk to them. Okay, that you probably need to write down what they talked about. So you just need to learn what, the give and take of what needed to be included. So it's kind of the same with this. Just communication is obviously different every transmission you write down, but everything else is kind of what do you feel is important.
Okay. Any more questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all for your patience this evening.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Am I still on?
You're still on.
Okay. I know this thing's doing something weird.
Okay. Yeah. No,
Major
just stay on.
Silver.